And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho. And lots of stuff to cover today. We're going to blast through it super quick. We don't want the video to be too long, so start things out by looking at the sun. We've got multiple coronal hole wind streams as well as coronal mass ejections headed Earth's way right now. A massive series of coronal holes there in the north, easily visible in 193 angstroms. And the ejecta continues to happen. We saw geomagnetic storm conditions yesterday for a brief period of time, so we went live for that as well. Tons of stuff to cover. Here's a close-up view of that northern coronal hole region as well as an active region there. 0 sunspots right now. All kinds of climate stuff to talk about. Let's move through. Here's the LASCO C2, and you can indeed see ejecta headed in an earthly direction. Here's the LASCO C3, and you can see ejecta on both sides of the coronagraph, an indication that some plasma is most likely Earth-facing. It's a decent speed. Here's what's going on in the magnetosphere right now. And we still see significant pressure here. Although we are now off of geomagnetic storm conditions, we got to a KP of 5 yesterday. So interesting stuff going on, kind of all at once, and tons of stories to cover. We'll have a smashlights section in today's video as well as a shout out to Diamond at Oppenheimer Ranch Project. Here are the 30-minute aurora forecasts. And we see some significant auroras there over places like Siberia, as well as the South Geomagnetic Pole, which is out in the ocean south of Australia. And we see some in northeast Canada here as well at the end. If you've got dark conditions and clear skies, you may be able to see stuff going on in the mesosphere. Here's what's going on ground magnetic perturbations, and we still see quite a few of them as we ramp down from this geomagnetic storm. We still see significant solar magnetism. We'll get into it. Seriously, folks, there is way too much stuff to cover today. No screwing around on data. Anyway, there's 4 hours of geospace ground magnetic perturbations, and you can see there are quite a bit of them. Looking at the fields, we see a mixed series of fields associated with this plage, not to be confused with a sunspot. Here is 304 angstroms fade, and there's 171 angstroms. Great view. We've made a custom animation for patrons. Here is a short movie here from HelioViewer showing Earth-facing coronal mass ejecta, as well as the Earth scale, and 171 angstroms. We've also got views of the South Solar Polar region. And by the way, if you hear a low rumbling, it's because we've decided to broadcast from the Smash Bunker. Here's the North Solar Polar region. And you can see some of that active region in the lower left of your screen, as well as a well-defined North Solar Polar Field coronal hole. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux is still at 70, I believe, having not come off of its lows. Let's check spaceweather.com. Yep, still 70 for the 10.7 centimeter radial flux. And there is the graph going back about 3 years. You can see how flatlined during this solar minimum 10.7 centimeter radial flux was. By the way, that's a measure of the outer corona, and we use other frequencies of radial flux like the 245 megahertz radial flux to actually forecast flares and coronal mass ejections. We won't get into it today as we got to blast through too much stuff. KP index is at 3, again having come off its high, and again we did do a live stream during that yesterday. The X-ray flux is remaining flatlined here for the most part, and we don't see any big proton events going on. We did see a big reduction in the electron flux, and we're expecting that to jump back up today, possibly into warning levels. Let's check the real-time solar wind. And we see fleeting connections with the coronal hole systems in the north over the past 14 hours, and a ramp down of the solar wind density. So we're getting hit by multiple coronal hole wind streams right now at the same time. that there's going to be an increase in the electron flux and coronal mass ejections headed the Earth's way. So don't be surprised to see us jump back into geomagnetic unrest conditions and so on for the next foreseeable future, for the next at least 4 days or so. And those coronal mass ejections are not over yet. Current solar wind density about 7 protons per cubic centimeter. Current solar wind speed just coming off its highs here, 485 kilometers a second right now. And the high was around 520, 530 I can see there. So, and the BT, let's see, the BT is only at 5, and the BZ is in the southward orientation here, -4 south solar polar field. Phi angle returning to a coronal hole position here. Next, looking at stereo A, and you can see a bunch of ejecta here. Some of this is headed to the south of us. The Earth is off in this direction on the ecliptic plane, and that's not complete yet. There's still activity going on there, and there's still a large plasma plume between Earth and Sun. We'll show you in a moment. First, the GOES magnetometer is remaining very spiky here. So we're seeing this ongoing series of non-smooth curves on the GOES magnetometer, and it has to do with plasma in between Earth and Sun. So now when we were looking at stereo A, we were looking at this kind of a view, and you could see some ejecta was headed toward the Earth, but to the south. So there's a coronal mass ejecta all over the environment in between Earth and Sun right now. Lots of solar protons out there. And the solar wind is made of about over 90% protons, hydrogen nuclei. And they'll be out there traveling at all various different speeds. So in any case, we're going to continue to see spiky readings on the GOES magnetometer. When the Earth snaps around this bit of plasma here, you'll see a very high reading. And the south solar polar field could pop back into place. Keep in mind the magnetic environment can change at any time, and forecasting it is, shall we say, not easy. Here's the line of sight field plot, which also shows the B field, the toroidal field on which you live. You can see it being pulled up toward that active region there toward the end of the movie. Nothing too exciting happening there, although you do get a good view of the north solar polar coronal hole area. Here's a synoptic map, pretty uneventful there. And let's move on to a smashlights. As again, we've got lots of other stories to cover. So let's get into that. And welcome to another episode of the Smashlights, where we talk about various things like Tsar Bomba. Have you seen the video about Tsar Bomba? Well, here it is. It's a 27-foot long, 50 megaton hydrogen bomb, the largest ever detonated on Earth. There's a wonderful video about it. Check that out if you haven't done so. It's quite amazing. And it's from Nina E. Has she gotten more subs yet? She only had like 14 subs when I saw it. Now she's up to 62, and this video's got 14,000 views. By the way, shout out to the Cardigans. Pop revival band from Sweden. Go listen to their tracks like Sick and Tired and Rise and Shine. There are so many good ones. They are so underrated. The Cardigans. Most of the songs you hear on the radio are crap. Here's a little clip from our geomagnetic unrest conditions yesterday, geomagnetic storm conditions, and we looked at a lot of meteorology stuff. Scenario would be if you got the jet stream really blowing, if you had the jet stream blowing really hard from north to south. Anyway, go check that out if you haven't. There's some very interesting weather anomalies on there. If you enjoy the content on YouTube, press like and subscribe. And if you're viewing on BitChute, leave us a comment, etc. Visit links below the video to help support the channel. Let's talk about infrared winds coming out of the eruption of a stellar mass black hole. So a black hole somewhere around the sun's level of mass here emitted a bunch of infrared. So that's that's sort of an abnormal thing. Part of a low mass X-ray binary system. And we're going to talk about other transients momentarily. So this is a bit of an abnormal thing. Essentially a thermal process going on there in this, what you could call an accretion disk, I suppose. Maxi J 1820 plus 70. So if you want to read more about that, that's on phys.org in the astronomy and space section. Now, gas reaches young stars along magnetic field lines. Well, who would have guessed? Well, I would have guessed, as I've been saying it for a couple of years now. Plasma's not magic, folks. The plasma orients to the magnetic field force lines. So this is sort of understood science, but it's interesting to get more data about it. TW Hydrae, the star is special because it's very close to Earth at only 196 light years, and the disk of matter surrounding the star is directly facing us. So we're looking right across the disk. It makes it an ideal candidate to probe how matter from a planet-forming disk is channeled onto the stellar surface. So yeah, it follows magnetic field force lines, kind of the same way the solar wind follows magnetic field force lines. And the interstellar wind, I don't want to call it the galactic wind because that's going to confuse people and make them think that the galactic wind is affecting the sun, and it's a little more complex than that. But here's a good diagram, I guess. Yep, looks pretty legit. The gas, plasma, etc. is, and by the way, most stellar wind is hydrogen nuclei. The plasma is orienting itself to the potential field force lines. So another article there from phys.org's astronomy and space section. It's pretty good. Now the Earth section is full of charticles, and I know we have the charticle graphic on the test pattern today. There's a legit reason for that. And let's get back to some more articles here. A whole series of interesting headlines from Zero Hedge. And we're not really going to go through any of that. Have you heard about Trump referring to Joe Biden's agenda as made in China? Well, that's my favorite political quote of the whole year, I think. The president went further to state that Biden's agenda was made in China, while Trump's was made in the USA, drawing applause from the audience. I love it. CNN has transformed itself into Baghdad Bob. And by the way, Bridget Fetisi is killing it. Ha ha ha! Hilarious. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you may not see it. Check it out. Ocean liner's voyage mostly successful. Get it? See what's happening here? Yeah, this is why you should be watching our channel instead of CNN or whatever it is you're watching. And we've got interesting posts here. Have you heard about what happened to Rand Paul? An angry mob apparently tried to kill Rand Paul and his wife after they left the RNC convention, not realizing that Rand Paul is the author of the Justice for Breonna Taylor bill, a bill decrying and banning no-knock warrants. So, well done, protesters. Super brilliant. Pardon the sarcasm. We like to repost Tony Heller's posts. He's super good. By the way, public sector unions should not exist. They're revolving door bureaucratic money traps, since taxpayer dollars pay the things like, for instance, teachers. Taxpayer dollars pay the teachers who pay out of their salary, which is derived from taxpayer dollars, into the unions, which lobby for things like higher salaries, redundant superintendents who make $250,000 a year and don't do anything but sit at a desk all day, etc. Public sector unions should not exist. Also, a pinned tweet to the shirt that I'm currently wearing. We'll tell you where to find it momentarily. But congratulations on surviving a global pandemic so far. Were you scared? Were you spooked? Well, we've got clothing so you can show off how scared and spooked you were. As well as clothing that says Google is a scam, not a verb, since it is. Have you checked out smashlights.com/forum? This is your official invite. We've got over 1,400 registered users. You don't need to be a registered user to read it. You just need to be a registered user to interact. smashlights.com/forum. And shout out once again to our blind viewers, as we do have blind viewers. Check out nfb.org if you need resources for your blindness. And for instance, if you have Medicare and you're blind, you've got all kinds of free stuff coming. Also, if you are, a military veteran, there's all kinds of other free stuff that you can get and all kinds of resources out there. don't worry about it if you can't see anything. Although Tennessee teachers are worried that I'm going to pick up an article about them on the Insanity Files. So one of the sections in smashlights.com/forum is the Insanity Files. It's part of the general science forum, as I used to be a psych major. So I know something about this, and I prefer, like Jordan Peterson, to talk about things that I know something about. Texas teachers are worried you'll hear what they teach their kids. They've tried to get parents to form a sign to not listen in or eavesdrop on online classes. Now, if that's not insane, I don't know what is, which is why we've included it in today's Insanity Files. Now, they weren't a big fan of the idea. It caused a backlash, and the district decided to get rid of such an insane idea. They're very disappointed that they can't indoctrinate your children. You may be sitting right next to them just out of frame during a Zoom call, listening to everything that they idiotically, everything that they say to you. Massachusetts now requires flu shot for all students, even though it has nothing to do with COVID. It sounds like they're trying to soften folks up for when they do have COVID vaccines. What say you? Do you have an opinion on this? German university paying scholarships to do nothing. Yeah, for real. It's a pilot program that'll select a handful of people. And let's see if the results prove that doing nothing promotes environmental and social justice. Also testing universal basic income. So some really progressive ideas coming out of Germany. But they're also marching against lockdowns. So I guess shout out to them for that. And requiring people to walk their dogs a certain number of times per day is nuts. Great Britain has banned advertising on, quote, unhealthy foods, and, quote, during daytime TV. Anyway, check out smashlights.com/forum. Also, follow me on Instagram. Otherwise, you may not see epic hits like this. Look, it's a side view sunrise through the rear view yesterday. Instagram.com/smashomash. And oh my God, I've been scared and spooked. I just don't know what to do. You know what, COVID? I've decided to make friends. Let me extend the hand of brotherhood of those who have RNA. Congratulations on your RNA. That's a weird handshake. Ew, I've got my hand in your protein coat. I guess COVID got embarrassed. Thanks for being so agreeable, COVID. Let's talk about SciTech Daily articles. I don't know why I'm here. There's a reason. Oh, because we have articles that are refuting each other on their headlines. Yes. Risk of death is 30% lower for patients treated with hydroxychloroquine. Was I saying that on March 19th? Like 1 hour after the president talked about it? Was that a thing? I'd tell you to go watch it on BitChute, but the server's down right now. So if that made you feel better, here's one to make you feel worse. Warning. Children with no symptoms may shed SARS-CoV-2 virus for weeks. Should I cue up the Toccata and Fugue in D minor by Bach? Invited commentary raises questions about pediatric transmission. Are you scared and spooked? Now listen to this one. This is a wonderful one here. Experts warn rigid social distancing rules for COVID-19 based on outdated science. Why? Because they think you should be even farther distanced. If you've got access to idiotic articles, drop us a line at the SMASHO VOIP line. It's country code +1, area code 610-936-9799. Thanks to everybody who did send texts and calls and images and so on to the SMASHO VOIP line. Again, the number is country code +1, area code 610-936-9799. Let's talk about the forum once again. We've got a 31-plus page document on the forum, a thread about coronavirus, and we've moved it to page 14 to tell you what we were talking about back on March 21st, 2 days after we created a video about hydroxychloroquine, which we then removed from YouTube since it was demonetized and confirmed as demonetized. America's shopping list. Here's what people were COVID-idiotically hoarding. Beans, non-dairy milk, soap, tissues. Those were the top 4 at the time. And then there's the list. week ending March 14th. Aerosol disinfectants, thermometers, rubbing alcohol, multi-purpose cleaners. Does everybody have a stockpile of a bunch of stuff they don't need now? Well, that's probably a good thing regardless. But in any case, here is what folks were buying. You're welcome. We copy-paste the information so that when articles change their data, we have a timeline of it, see? Because oftentimes you see the headline, but not the retraction, don't ya? Unparalleled challenge inside America's first lockdown major city is also included. Lots of information on COVID. Let's talk about extreme tech. I like to read extreme tech first thing in the morning. And I didn't get a chance to read it today, so now you're viewing it as I do. Watch out for a potential solid-state drive damaging bug coming in Windows Update. Astronomers warn massive fleets of Starlink satellites could change astronomy forever, creating a bunch of poopy poop on their non-poopy stuff. Again, head to smashlights.org and visit the links if you haven't. We've got links up top to the forum, 2 different Teespring stores if you want to buy gear, as well as our affiliate page. You've got to turn off pop-up blockers to see the affiliate links because they're ads. And by the way, our affiliate page doesn't have any sort of shady software on it, but since these are ads and we don't have an actual personal storefront, these are just links. So if you click on these links, this pays us a tiny referral fee. If you need a thing like a bike light, calcium plus vitamin D, a hardware keyboard for your junkware device instead of using your on-screen keyboard and wanting to stab yourself, or perhaps a UV wand. Anyway, it's all there at smashlights.com/affiliate. Congratulations on surviving a global pandemic so far. Thanks for tuning into the content. Thanks to our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. We've got 9 tiers. Please consider becoming a patron if you haven't already done so. And here ends another Smash Lights. And let's get back to data and move into a cosmology segment. Yes, it's a Saturday special as we go on and on to study the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics. It's part of the reason why we put cosmology articles in things like the daily Smash Lights. We like to mix it up, right? We're not locked into any sort of a routine. So part of our mission is to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of unified theory of physics, and cosmology figures in. So let's talk about an object out in Cygnus. We're going to zoom in, and pardon my squeaky mouse wheel. And what is it? What is it, folks? Well, it's way out in the Cygnus arm. What could it be? Well, this is on Simbad. It's Cygnus X1. And here are the X-ray transient outbursts. Now, Cygnus X1 is interesting for a couple reasons. One, it's the first widely accepted object to actually be a black hole. So, Stephen Hawking and Carl Sagan famously bet on this object back in the 1970s. One bet it was a black hole, one bet it wasn't a black hole, and anyway, now everybody knows the consensus is that it is a black hole. Also, its periodicity is interesting, and that is too big of an epic pen. Periodicity is interesting. You can see in this graph here, it goes into a quiescent state for an extended period of time, and then it goes into a more heightened state for an extended period of time. Cygnus X1, largely believed to be a black hole. We prefer to refer to it as a massive radio source. If you want to find it on the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory, just type in Cygnus X1. It's classified as a high-mass X-ray binary / black hole. And we won't get into those terms. But if you want to watch, these are X-ray transients, folks, studied at the Neil Gorell Swift Observatory. If you need legal resources, perhaps check out Make Americans Free Again. Now, I'm not that familiar with it. If anybody wants to vet it, check it out. Let us know what you think. They do have mask exemption signs, which sounds like a wonderful idea. And I'm not exactly sure what that's even about. There is also a letter to the governor, Governor Gretchen Whitmer. So, for those of you located there, yeah. Rather than protest the executive orders, a concerned citizen sent a letter. He details he's happy to follow the executive orders as long as she provides the information he needs to make an informed decision, which she's not doing. And once again, shout out to our blind viewers. Get your resources at ifb.org. Now, today we're not streaming live to Twitch, but we did put up a video there for our Twitch followers so that they know this one's going to YouTube and BitChute. Again, please press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content on YouTube. Our subscriber count is tanking. We almost went under 1,600 subscribers there for a moment. Thanks to all of our new subscribers. Please share the content on your social media. Tell your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros. We've probably got something for all of them. And, yeah, drop us a line at smashamash@gmail.com if you like. And visit our sites below the videos. Enjoy our Smashlights segments. We've got various playlists, including Cosmology. Let's get back to data. Relativistic electrons, there's the one-year graph, are at very low levels. And, we're expecting these to remain low, actually. I thought they were going to go up. I'm no longer forecasting that. These are going to remain cratered for the foreseeable future. So at least through the weekend, I'm not expecting to see anything approaching warning levels despite this forecast. So the forecast is talking about much higher levels here. I think these are going to remain more down here. So it's a minor distinction there. And here's a visualization of the electron content. This is the entire air column all the way from the thermosphere down to your GPS unit, for example. We don't really see any anomalies going on. Nothing to write home about there. Fairly low levels of electron flux. Next, looking at just one slice of that is the ionosphere. And it's not looking as anomalous as it had about 3 days ago, 4 days ago. It was quite less normal than it is now. Here's the latest image. And having seen the ionosphere chill out a little bit, that is 8 o'clock universal time. Here's where things are in the solar system as Mercury makes its way around and Venus makes a run for it. There's where things will be in a week. If you get up before dawn, you may see Venus, one of the most interesting objects in the sky. Although for me, the most interesting object in the sky is indeed Deneb. Did you know Göbekli Tepe is oriented at Deneb, as well as many, many other megalithic sites? Largest earthquake of the past 24 happened in New Zealand. It was a 5.4 right in the Bay of Plenty. And I believe there's a volcano out there too, folks. I think that's farther out than the volcano. I'm sure somebody probably felt that one. Let's go over the past 24. And one came in as we did the show today. So while we aren't streaming live, here's what's currently going on. 4.4 deep quake in western South America. This 5.5 in New Zealand happened at 15:47 yesterday. So that's the largest quake of the past 24, nothing over a 5.5 magnitude. Very deep quake at Fiji, a 4.5 magnitude at 552 kilometers depth. And by the way, I think we've already covered charticles. That's why we've got it on the test pattern. And the one that came in as I did the show was a 5.3 near Fiji and Tonga. The fossil record in western South America tells us two things. Both the altitude and vegetation changed dramatically over a relatively short period of time, geologically speaking, supporting a hypothesis that suggests that tectonic uplift of the region occurred in rapid pulses. That's pretty creepy, right? Well, it's unexplained how it is that the fossils that live in Peru's central Andean plateau exist there, as it must have been much warmer, much more humid, and a much lower altitude. So giant portions of continents can apparently uplift in very short periods of time. I know some of you are already aware of this. There's an article about it here on phys.org in the Earth section. If you want to read up, have yourself a read. Let's look at the volcanoes of the current day, I guess I should say. Semeru's exploding. It's producing a 13,000-foot plume of ash. Tocono, likewise, 7,000-foot plume of ash there. Fuego exploding as well. flight level 150, 15,000 feet. Sangay exploding, 20,000 foot ash plume there. Revenador, don't put your ass over the ash. It's 15,000 feet above sea level. And don't try to pole vault or hang glide over the caldera. It could prove unhealthful. Major power outages across the U.S. Let's press refresh just to make sure we got the latest. And a massive percentage of customers out, tracking 2,435,000 out of power in Louisiana. 88,000 tracked users out in Texas. We've also got some in Pennsylvania, as we got hit with severe thunderstorms, as well as the Great Lakes region. There's more flooding to come. Let's talk about Zarkova's latest paper. And shout out to Diamond from Oppenheimer Ranch Project. Let's do a video soon. Zarkova printed a paper on August 4th, I believe it was, talking about grand solar minimum, terrestrial cooling, solar cycles, poloidal fields, toroidal fields, etc. And I don't have too much to say about this one, although it is a theory. Or you could say it's a hypothesis, depending on how much credence you put in it. Let me just, I'm not suggesting it's a sharticle or anything like that, folks. However, there is a little bit more than meets the eye here. She's looking at certain features, and, you know, some of the features she's looking at are pretty legit, and some of the features that she's looking at are pretty not legit. The total solar irradiance numbers are silly and all but irrelevant in my opinion, because the total solar irradiance is actually lowered by a sunspot. I don't know if you're aware of that. So that's a problem, and keep in mind there are a lot of features to solar activity besides sunspot number, total solar irradiance, and even solar polar fields. So we have to look at thermosphere indexes. Electron flux does figure in. I believe that is an after tidal effect of the real inputs, which would be the solar wind. So we've got predictions here going out hundreds of years. She's forecasting 2 grand solar minimums, one from cycle 24 to 26, lasting until about 2042. The other one is forecasted to last, 2020 to 2053, and the other one is forecasted to last from 2370 to 2415. So this is based on not just total solar irradiance, but also magnetic data and sunspot number. So this is part of the reason why we're watching the solar polar fields constantly. And so while indeed cycle 24 was the weakest cycle of the past 100 years, we will not know if she is correct until the peak of cycle 25. Now, if we don't happen to see a cycle 25, now, of course, we're already in cycle 25, but if we see if we see a weaker or the same level of solar activity as cycle 24, that's a bad thing. The good news is cosmic ray flux was lower back then. The thermosphere was was colder back then as well. So we could already be off of the solar minimum. And the solar minimum, if it's 3 cycles versus 1 cycle, it's a very different forecast. NASA was forecasting a grand solar minimum on cycle 23 and was incorrect. So what we have to, the main point is we must watch the solar polar fields and sunspot activity. Certain features of solar activity, such as coronal mass ejections, the electron flux, filaments, coronal holes, coronal hole wind streams striking the magnetosphere, and others, not the least of which is cosmic ray influence. Cosmic ray influence is not understood in terms of solar activity. We do not know what the actual inputs of cosmic ray flux are on the sun. And indeed, it is true that a bunch of stars could suddenly turn on and make the Earth cloudy for thousands of years. So that aside, let's talk about the thermosphere for a quick moment. The thermosphere is sort of the most distant portion of the atmosphere. And it's where the initial refraction of solar light happens. And this is the part of the Earth's atmosphere that gets heated up, you could say, directly from the sun. And that's why we watch the thermosphere index. So one of the many features of Earth-Sun relationship is the thermosphere index. And that's why we like to put up the graph once in a while. So here it is. You can actually look at this. It's on spaceweather.com. Thermosphere climate index. Just click on graphics, and there you can see the thermosphere. I would note it was colder at the last solar minimum at the same time that cosmic ray flux was higher than it is now. So you can keep going around in circles and saying the same thing over and over again. That does not necessarily make it true. Let's talk about AccuWeather weather news. It looks like the path of the Laura remnant has changed, and now it's set to strike me. So I am now in the cone, and oh my God, she's as big as a house. Wear black, it's slimming. Okay, that is a very pregnant weather forecaster. And I don't know why she's showing such lousy graphs. That is that's a great weather chart there. Wow, thanks. Numerous showers and T-storms. Thanks for the incredible level of detail there, AccuWeather. Anyway, lots of damage from this, lots of homes destroyed. Our hearts go out to all of those folks down there. Please keep them in your prayers, viewers. Here's the usweather.gov map, and they're still calling for heavy winds. It looks like they have picked up a little bit. We'll show you in a minute. Let me just make sure that we are still recording, as I get confused sometimes. So let's go to the next 5 days. We're seeing the main rain here over northern Virginia and Maryland. Also northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, and eastern Oklahoma shall get the main portions. And I'm not exactly sure what those amounts are. Let's see if it'll... So forecasting 6+ inches of rain there, 4 inches of rain there. So that's some pretty serious rain forecast from windy.com. We're going to ignore pressure maps today because we don't want the video to be too long. Next, looking at lightningmaps.org to see there is indeed some terrestrial lightning here over Kansas. Hey, Wichita, there's thunder rolling in, and that is a serious storm. Hopefully not too much cold weather is being injected down there and causing it to be worse. Anyway, there's the current water vapor map for Africa and Europe. It's not animated, I apologize. Here's the water vapor map for the Far East and Oceania. Water vapor map for the Americas. And are we good? We're good. Water vapor map for the Americas, complete with Borg sphere circling the North Pole. You can see that Borg sphere there being blocked out by NASA because NASA doesn't want you to know the truth about Borg spheres. Pardon my sarcasm. And those are some strong storms. Keep in mind, folks, the northwest corner is the most dangerous place to be in a northern hemisphere severe thunderstorm. Please keep on top of those deadly weather conditions. Don't be caught outside on your bicycle during golf ball size hail. It could make your day end very, very badly. There's what's going on in the cloud layer. Here's a water vapor map. We're going to show you a zoom in of Kansas. Hopefully nobody ends up in Oz. Let's see how high the cloud tops are. Those are some pretty high cold cloud tops, folks. And a great view of that area. It's going to stagnate a little bit because it's being locked in here between all this dry mass of air. And the good news is that we don't have too much jet stream headed south here. If we had jet stream headed south, that would be a much more intense setup. Let's take a look at surface winds real quick. We're going to ignore the jet stream today. Let me press refresh. And there's what's going on in the surface winds. Zoom out a little bit. As we've got some serious weather systems over the U.S., looks like a strong low-pressure system forming there over the northern portion of Lake Michigan. Right about here. Anyway, moving on. We moved Null School to the end. By the way, thanks to our subscribe stars and to our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. It's time to vanish and thank the Smash team for leaving comments, etc. Please share on your social media. Visit the links below the video to support the channel. Purchase some merch. Go to the smashamash.com/affiliate. Go to smashamash.org and click the links there. And get thanked for flying American Smashways. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times, as we have bonus features, such as this animated GIF from just today. Now, our patrons may have already seen it. Let me make it one click smaller there. There is the full disc, complete with date stamps. And I think there are 6 different wavelengths there. Let's look at a 48-hour video in 94 angstroms, an intensity gram, and a colorized magnetogram to show you 0 sunspots. By the way, I think 75% of the days in 2020, at the time of Zarkova's paper, were sunspot-free. The solar minimum was in mid-November. I was off by about 6 weeks in my forecast for it. I'll take it. I'll consider that pretty close. Anyway, here's the 94 angstroms 48-hour SDO video. Wait for that wheel to stop spinning for it to load, as I've got 97 tabs open, so you don't have to. There we are. And thanks again for tuning in, folks. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink it. If you do, don't drive. Seriously, don't drive. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Visit smashomash.org. And since it'll never be now again, we welcome you to attempt to understand the physics. And may that solar wind be at your back and the covidiously absent from your locality.